So we got the official rules for VGC in 2025, how the championship series circuit is actually going to work next season, and it really set the world on fire as far as the VGC community is concerned on Twitter yesterday. People are just really not happy with a lot of these changes, and I want to talk about them. This video is going to be more ranty than normal, because I do think a lot of the changes are bad. I held off. I wanted to make this video yesterday, but I held off because yesterday I was very irritated about the rules changes. And don't get it twisted, it still annoys me, but I've cooled down a bit. I do think there is some positives in here for sure, and I wanted to make sure I didn't make my video so early that I was like driven by the emotion of it all. I wanted to be able to highlight a lot of the good changes that are actually in this. I think it's really interesting, some of the changes that come, but there's some overall bad, and we're going to talk about all of that here. So we're going to immediately start with the bad, because this is the big elephant in the room. This is the biggest elephant in the room, and that is how you actually qualify for Worlds in 2025. So the qualification system of the Pokemon World Championships is changing for the 2025 season. In 2025, a set number of players from each rating zone, age, division, and game will earn an invitation to the World Championship based on their championship point leader standings. This has been done in the past, and a lot of people have very strong opinions about this. Basically, you have to stay within a certain threshold in the CP bracket to be able to obtain that Worlds invite, which means you need to constantly be playing, constantly be earning points to maintain that bracket. However, there is something that is a highlight of this, is that this does not apply to the players that are winning regionals and winning ICs and things of that nature. So they introduced last season that if you won a regional or you won an IC, or I believe it was top 2 at ICs last season, you would get invites to Worlds regardless. And this number is unaffected by the total that is allowed from each region. The number that is set for invites is unaffected by this metric here. So that's really good. Because people were very concerned that the people that were winning regionals were automatically getting locked, and they were taking up one of those places that we would be able to then send off to Worlds. That is not the case. You are going to be able to still have the max number of players from each region go to Worlds, despite the fact that people are getting auto invites from winning regionals and things like that. And I think that's really good. I think if you win a regional, you've earned a spot at Worlds. I think if you top 4, which it says right here, top 4 performers at major events will automatically get World Championship invites. That means the ICs and things of that nature. If you're doing that well at these big tournaments, you deserve a spot at Worlds. That's my opinion, and I think that the top 4 is a really nice addition. I think that's a really nice change right here. But this is where things really get bad. So we're not going to worry about TCG. We don't care about TCG. This is where the limit is a problem. So as far as Masters are concerned for the World Championships in 2025, only 75 in the US and Canada will be invited to Worlds. That is a crazy amount. I believe this year we had 211 players hit the 500 point threshold. So if you're unfamiliar, currently in the 2024 season, you earned a Worlds invite by simply hitting 500 championship points. If you hit 500 championship points, you then got to go to Worlds. And I think that was a fair system. A lot of people, especially if you live in an area like myself, locals aren't that frequent. You can't just farm locals. So getting that Worlds invite is still a lot of dedication, a lot of travel. So from like people in my area, this the 500 point threshold bar was really, really positive, because it was still something that looked obtainable. This is not obtainable, especially for someone from my standpoint. Again, as someone who doesn't have a lot of locals in the area, this doesn't look obtainable, because I can, like, I would imagine most people that follow VGC can probably name like 20 trainers off the top of their head that is going to be ahead of you in this regard. That is going to be way ahead of you in this regard. And I don't have an issue with the top players going to Worlds, but as far as from a growth perspective for the game, VGC has seen such a climb as far as the growth of the game is concerned. We're hitting massive numbers at regionals, and the scene itself is growing. But if you tell a new player, like look at like Sempra or Justin Tang, or like people that just come in out of nowhere and win, like you're basically like, they might have just gone to a regional because they're like, oh, maybe I can get the 500 point, and then they ended up winning, right? Just new players on the scene, new casual fans that are hopping in. If you tell them, oh, you have to hit 500 points, that looks obtainable. That is something that's like, I can try for that, and if I don't hit it, I don't hit it. But this doesn't look obtainable because people are like, well, even if I do well at the events I'm able to go to that are close enough to me that I can attend, I can't afford to travel more to be able to actually stay in the 75. So it doesn't look good for new players that are interested in getting into the scene. It's just not beneficial to them, and it really just hurts the growth of the game as a whole. Nothing about this change feels positive from a growth perspective for the esport, and that's something that really frustrates me about this whole thing. But it doesn't stop there as far as the bad is concerned, right? So not only do we have the limitation, and I gotta mention here, Middle East and South Africa just get no invites at all, and I think that's a little weird, a little messed up. Obviously, there's lower invites per region based on the location of the world, like 50 in Latin America, 20 in Oceania. I'd assume a lot of these metrics are based on the number of participants that are actually playing in those regions, but just having no invites, like, just give Middle East and South Africa 20. Just if you're gonna go with this limit, just give them 20 like Oceania. If that's the reason, if people just aren't playing in that region, give some invites so people that are playing can actually go for something. I feel like this is a little odd in my opinion, and I really disagree with this choice. But moving on, let's find here. They did change the CP payouts for a lot of the regionals. Regionals are giving more CP payouts. Internationals are giving more CP payouts. The problem becomes the best finish limit. If you're unfamiliar, they take the top of your best finishes, and that's what they use for points. So say you attend more than 6 regionals or 6 events as a whole, they are taking the best results from the events that you do attend to then be applied to your CP total. So what's weird about this is that regionals and internationals share the BFL. Now, this could be a typo. This could be something that just wasn't fixed and handled properly. But what this means at this point is that if you go to all 3 internationals, the point payout is ridiculous for those events, right? Looking at the difference here. So regionals, you win first place, you get 350, 325, 300, all the way down, you know, blah, 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 all the way down to the top 500 to 1,000 are getting 20 championship points. But scroll up a little bit on the internet side. Internets have always been a bigger payout for CP. Makes sense. It's a bigger event. More players, more top level players are going to these events, but the payout gets ridiculous. So just hitting 65th through 128 at a international is giving you more points than if you were to place in the top 32 players, 17 through 32 players at a regional. That is absolutely mind-boggling to me, simply because of the fact that there is this no limit on international BFLs. You could go to all 3 BFLs, and if you just perform in the top 65 to 128, you can farm 450 points right there. That's absolutely insane. That is huge for staying in the top 75 as far as points are concerned. If you are able to travel, if you can afford to travel to every event internationally, you are able to just farm points at these events. And that is very it stops promoting skill at that point, and it promotes how much money and how much disposable income you have. And I think that that is a very, very bad change for the scene. I think that makes no sense as far as a competitive standpoint is concerned, because again, it's not skill based, it's how much money you have. And I think that is a huge factor in what I was talking about earlier, with people being deterred from actually coming in as a new player and wanting to participate in the scene. I think that's really, really detrimental, and I think this is a horrible change. If they were to change this to like top 6 regional finishes and they limit you to 1 internet, it would be a far less oppressive change for the more casual audience who can only attend events in their regions. As it sits right now, this is just a bad change, and I really hope that something is altered in regards to this, because this is ridiculous. If you can travel to all 3 ICs, you can farm points like it's nobody business. It is really, really crazy. But that's like the end of my gripes with the bad. Like, obviously this needs changed. The 75 limit I think is silly. Personally, my fix for this would just go back to the bar. Go back to a bar. Even if you raise the bar to 700 points, that is still looks like an obtainable goal for somebody, because you can fight for that 700 points, and even if you don't achieve it, that's on you, versus it's on everybody that can spend more money than you for traveling to more events, that bumps you out of the top 75 players in your region. So that, for me, I think going back to a bar is the best fix for this issue. Set a bar for every region and go off that. Like, if you bump it from 500 to 700 or 500 to 600, whatever you decide to do, that is an infinitely better decision for growth of the game as a whole than what we have as of right now. And people have been lighting up Twitter with this information. A lot of people very discouraged, saying that they're not really going to go for their Worlds Invite. And I am one of those people. I personally, I don't have that kind of disposable income. I don't really plan to attend as many events as I was going to, because of the fact that I don't have the income to go to enough events to stay in the top 75. So for me personally, I won't be going for that Worlds Invite this season, and I was fully expecting to. I was fully planning to go for a Worlds Invite in 2025 and try and get my Worlds Invite, but I just don't have that kind of income, so I'm dropping out of that race. I'm still going to attend events. I'm still going to go to my locals. I'm still going to play in like the regionals that are close to me, but I'm not going for the race anymore. I'm not trying to go to Worlds in 2025. So unless something drastically changes, that is where I'm sitting right now. But again, that's pretty much where the bad ends. I want to talk about some of the good changes that came out of this. I think there are some good things that did come out of a lot of these changes. First and foremost, leagues and global challenges. These have changed. So first and foremost, leagues are now part of the local scene. Locals have changed to leagues. Leagues are now tied directly to VGC locals, which can possibly be a bad thing, because it means you have to be tied to a card shop that does TCG leagues, which can be a little frustrating for TOs, but it seems like a lot of TOs are fighting hard to get them in. I know I was concerned about my local TO getting us the ability to play in our shop that we were playing in, and they actually did get it approved. So I think there is that ability for people to reach out to their TOs, reach out to card shops and be like, hey, we need more venues for more events. Would you be interested? I think that's really important. If you are worried about your local scene, reach out. You can go on the Pokemon event tracker and see what shops have TCG leagues and email all of those people. Email all of those people and be like, hey, we are interested in having VGC leagues. We will, buy cards. We will buy snacks. We will buy whatever the case may be, and just see what card shops are interested. I think that's a really good thing to do if you were worried about your local scene. But as far as the CP payout for these events, things have changed, which I think is good. A lot of people last season, it was 30 points if you won a PC, which is kind of crazy considering that like a lot of locals are smaller, especially in regions that don't have as many players like mine, my particular region. I think that's kind of a good change, because like I could battle, maybe 4 people at a PC and I could earn 30 points for winning, and that's kind of wild for that. So PCs have changed to league challenges, and those are going to award 15 points for first place, 12 for second place, 10 for third through fourth. You're going to get 8 points if you're 5 through 8, 6 points from 9 to 16, and 4 for 17 to 32. Again, if you're hitting those numbers. So that's really important to note, is that the PCs have changed to league challenges, and they are lower in points, and I think that's good as a whole. You have a BFL of 4, so your top 4 finishes at leagues are going to give you the best results for point payouts. Same goes for cups. MSSs have changed to league cups for VGC, and it's a much higher payout. 50 points for winning, 40 points for second place, 32 points for third through fourth, 25 through 5 through 8, 20 points 9 through 16, 16 for 17 through 32, and 33 through 64 is getting 13. Again, it's top 4 finishes for BFL. So if you are doing particularly well, if you max out your particular local situation, you can end up with 260 points total if you win 4 cups and you win 4 PCs. That's really, really good. They did say as well that more online tournaments are coming in the 2025 season. They didn't say that this is more than normal. It says more, which means that there could just be, additional chances for you to participate in these online competitions. They didn't say that they were actually increasing the number. For me, I read this more as more events are coming because we have more scheduled. Not that we have more events than normal scheduled. We just have more events coming. Normally we get like 3 players cups online the best of one online tournaments that award CP. For my reading of this doesn't read like we are getting like we're getting 5 instead of 3. We're just getting more events coming in the coming season, which makes sense. I didn't expect them to go away, but they are listed here as well as far as points are concerned. Looking at the global challenges that you're able to do, so you can get a best finish limit of 3 on these, and they award a decent amount of points based on how you perform in them, so they are definitely worth participating in if you are still looking to go for that Worlds invite. Definitely worth trying to get your feet wet on those tournaments. It's a lot of fun anyways, just to participate online. They usually give some rewards. Look, I would imagine at this point in the game's life cycle, we actually get some decent rewards, like the shiny Ruinous Pokemon could be really cool as rewards. Some sort of shiny locked Pokemon could be really solid as rewards, and I think that's more than likely given the state of where we're at in Scarlet and Violet. So definitely worth participating in these, but again, best finish limit of 3 for those, so that's really good as well. So again, I think the local changes generally are pretty positive. We'll see how it actually affects the local scene as far as TOs being able to actually get venues that are going to be able to host these events, but I think that as far as the point payout, this makes a lot of sense. Now, as far as the pricing is concerned, it looks like there is some misconstrued information. It says 5,000 here, but if you actually scroll down to the regional, let's see, regional for VGC, blah blah blah, there it is. It doesn't change, it's the same. It's still 6,000 for Masters Division for winning, so I think there was like some misinformation there, or a typo. You know, the 5 key is right next to the 6 key, so I think there was a typo for that. It's still 6,000 payout for Masters Division at regionals. I don't think the payout is the biggest deal here. I think people just want to play Pokemon to play Pokemon. Obviously the extra money for performing well is nice, but I don't think it's like the end all be all here. But doesn't look like there's any significant changes as far as regionals are concerned, as far as cash prizes go. I think what is really interesting is the adjustments to the Swiss tournament format, and I think that these are fine changes as well, because right now there's a lot of bubbling out of like Top Cut for players that are like, they have the same record but the resistance is off, and I think they listened to us. A lot of people were very frustrated with resistance in the last season, and now they've changed it. So after all Swiss rounds are completed, the top 8 competitors plus all competitors with the same number of match points as the person in 8th place, to a maximum of 32 players, will advance to an asymmetrical Top Cut single elimination bracket to determine the winner of the event. I think this is a really positive change personally, because again, I mentioned the frustration. Say you have the exact same record as somebody that's in 8th place, and you are bubbling out because of resistance or whatever the case may be. You're missing out on Top Cut potential. This is a really solid change in my opinion. You're able to actually participate in Top Cut because of the fact that you matched your opponent as far as the record goes, as long as you were in that max 32 participant limit. So I think this is relatively a really solid change. There are also adjustments to the number based on the number of participants, the number of Swiss rounds that you'll play on day 1 versus day 2. So I think that this is actually a really solid change. Personally, I think that this is just fine. I think that's totally acceptable. Continuing on, at-home competitions. I mentioned this earlier that there were more online tournaments are coming. I really hope that we get additional options outside of just the typical global challenges or the player cup, whatever. I hope we get more online tournaments that we're able to actually participate in. I think this is really important for people that can't afford to travel as much, to be able to play in these tournaments and earn points a separate way, much like we did during COVID. I think that this is a really solid way for players, again, that can't travel, can't afford that, to be able to participate, because it should be about skill, should be about your ability to play the game, and not about how many events you can actually attend. So I think hosting more, if this actually reads as more online tournaments, I think this is a really solid thing that could be pushed going into future seasons, not just the 2025 season. Definitely have more events online that people can participate in, and if they do end up hosting a bunch of online events that people can earn points in, maybe up that BFL limit from 3 to like 4 or 5. I think that would be really beneficial, especially determining the size of the tournament. I think that could be a really solid change. They did provide a list of some of the events that are coming. It looks like the list is much smaller, but it does say here that the event schedule will be updated as more are announced. So you can look and see what events are going to be near your area. I'm sure we are going to get more announced here very soon. And that is really really positive that there are more potentially on the way, but it does, as it looks right now, look very small simply because of the fact that they don't have all the events listed. So hopefully we get more announced very soon, so people that are playing on a budget can figure out, you know, what exactly they are going to be doing as far as which regionals they will be attending and things of that nature. Internets already have dates, and I think this is really, really important because normally we're waiting for dates. We have the dates, so we already know the date for NAIC, which is really good. We know when EUIC and LAIC are. That is really, really solid. I think that's really beneficial, especially for us in North America that are trying to get their last second points to get to Worlds. I think knowing exactly when you need to be scheduling to go to New Orleans, they are hosting it again in New Orleans, when you're able to actually go to that event, I think that's really, really solid. So for me personally, I like a lot of the changes, but there are some glaring issues. The other thing that is really important is that this all starts, the 2025 season starts in July. Leagues are starting back up in July for the local scene. You can start earning points. There are no regionals until after Worlds, but you can start earning points for the 2025 season by attending locals starting in July, which is right around the corner from when I'm uploading this video. That is incredibly positive. TCG has already done this in the past. They've already been able to participate in the following season early because of how their league structure worked. And I think this is another positive change as far as the locals are concerned. You're able to start earning points, especially because we're not changing formats. We're able to actually use the for those that are participating at Worlds, are able to actually use the leagues and the locals to practice for Worlds. I think that's really beneficial while also getting points going into the next season. I think that's a really positive change. So for me personally, there are good things here. There are some solid things here in this list. However, the glaring issue is this limit on the number of players that can go to Worlds. That is absolutely detrimental as far as growing the scene. And that's the biggest thing for me. I have so many people that are hopping into competitive play on my channel that are leaving comments and stuff that are saying, we are so interested in VGC, we want to start attending regionals, we want to start doing XYZ. But if you are putting something like this out there and saying only the top 75 players are going to be able to attend Worlds, that is something that is just so disheartening to somebody getting into the scene. So again, I really hope that we see some sort of change and that we go back to a bar. There is time to make this change. I get it, we start very soon for locals, but it doesn't take much for you to put it out an updated document and say this is what is actually happening. This is the bar that you now need to hit. That doesn't affect anything with the next 2 months because we don't have any big events until after Worlds in August. So if you take the next month and say we reevaluated the situation, here's the new CP bar that you need to hit to attend Worlds, nobody is going to be upset by that change because nothing happened but locals in the next 2 months. So that is something that I think they really need to take a look at, and there was some promise to something potentially being changed. Following the cry on Twitter yesterday, everybody was posting on Twitter yesterday. My Twitter interactions were so high because I was lighting up Twitter as well. Everybody was talking about this on Twitter. Play Pokemon actually responded, which is something that is very not normal for Pokemon as a whole. Normally, Pokemon does not address issues very quickly, if at all. So them saying yesterday, the same day that they posted the official rules for the next season, that thank you everyone for your feedback to the changes to the implemented in the upcoming 2025 competitive season. Evolving our competitive structure is an ongoing process and we value our community sentiment and suggestions. In the meantime, please keep providing us with your thoughts. We look forward to continuing to mature the competitive ecosystem in order to provide the best experience possible for our players, fans, and spectators. Now, I love that we got this response. I hope it's not just something, and I even posted this. I said, I hope this isn't just a save face and actual changes are made. That is something that I feel is very important out of this, is that they do take our feedback and actually apply changes. Again, we have 2 months of just locals changing how you get to Worlds, whether it be a bar or changing some BFL limitations. Changing things like that is a very positive thing, and nobody is going to be upset about that if you go through and do it over the course of the next 2 months. We only have locals. There's no regionals or anything happening until after Worlds. So you have plenty of time to go in and actually adjust this, Pokemon. But maybe this is just a save face. Maybe this is just, hey, we kind of get that we pissed off everybody and we're trying to be like everybody's best friend now, like a Homelander situation, and they just want to save face. I hope that's not the case. I hope they actually make some changes and listen to the feedback of the community, and we actually see some adjustments to the structure of the 2025 season. That's my personal hope. I'm not holding my breath for it, but I would love to see some actual changes. The final thing I want to talk about, and it's just very vague and it doesn't make a lot of sense, is that we also look forward to sharing more about Championship Point Season Rewards program for trainers who show great dedication to play Pokemon program, which will operate similarly to the fixed CP threshold from recent years. So I don't really know what this means. They didn't provide any sort of clarification, but it sounds like they are going to give some sort of reward for players for hitting a certain CP threshold. But as it sits right now, we know nothing about what that actual reward is. Again, I hope they just can this completely and they give us a CP bar. So that way we have, you know, an actual obtainable goal. Something that we can set our sights on rather than trying to constantly be playing in events to hit the 75 limit. I hope that this just gets thrown out the window and they adjust the tournament structure as a whole and the circuit structure as a whole. But as it sits right now, we have no idea what this means. Nothing has been confirmed or denied regarding the CP threshold rewards. So it's really interesting to see that here. But those are my thoughts on the season of 2025. Again, there is a lot of frustrating parts to this, but there is some good that came out of it. So I did want to address both sides of it. And again, that's why I pushed this video, because I didn't want to just come off it, you know, heated from the initial bad reactions that I was not happy about. So there are some good things that came out of this, but there are a lot of bad. And I really hope that that tweet that we just covered is something that shows that they are looking to make some changes to the structure of the circuit and actually benefit the growth of the game as a whole. Because again, that's what it comes down to. We want more people playing Pokemon. It's so fun having a community that comes together and all loves Pokemon as much as one another and being able to enjoy that together. And I think that the current situation that we're in is going to really weaken the number of new players that are going to hop in and play. That's just my thoughts. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below on your stance on the current structure of the circuit. I know some players have some positive things to say, and they aren't as upset about the changes. I know other players are absolutely devastated by the changes. So let me know your thoughts in the comments below. That is going to be it for today, guys. I hope you all enjoyed the video. If you did, leave a like and sub for daily competitive Pokemon content from me in the future. And also check out the Discord where we're over there hanging out, talking Pokemon, playing Pokemon all the time. But until next time, peace.